Yo, what is poppin', my guys? It is your boy Ash Lee, and today we are bringing you our week 10 of the IBL. So, this week we were playing my boy Brendan, aka Dark Devil 26, co-commissioner of the IBL, and this is a matchup I've been waiting for a long time, and we're just going to get right into the game prep. So this week he has a lot of really powerful threats, mainly an offensive, or I guess could be technically defensive core, but the offensive part was really what threatened me, being Mega Gardevoir and Zygarde in conjunction together is just a very scary core. And he also has on his team Mandibuzz, Vaporeon, Registeel, Cofagrius, Lycanroc Dusk, Cryogonal, Pyroar, Virizion, and Zebstrika. So just besides those two, just a lot of fat Pokemon, as well as some Pokemon that can hit hard. He's got good hazard removal, and yeah, this is just going to be a pretty tough matchup for me in general. So we do have some, I'm not going to say innovative because it's not, but prep that's a little different than how I would normally prep for a game like this. So we're just going to go ahead and talk about it real quick. To start us off, we have our Comfy. This is Lumberry with Dazzling Gleam, Draining Kiss, Calm Mind, and Synthesis. I don't think Registeel matches up against my team very well. It doesn't beat Celesteela, it doesn't beat Gallade, it doesn't beat Goodra, it doesn't beat Arcanine or Crocodile. I think Slowking gets Flamethrower. Pretty much all it does is Wall, Comfy, Rotom Mow, and Cradily. So I didn't see it coming in this matchup, which meant that a Mono Fairy attacking Comfy set was going to be putting in a lot of work. I'm able to Calm Mind up on a lot of different things. He does have two Haste Pokemon in Vaporeon and Cofagrius, but I was confident enough in my ability to set up on almost any Pokemon that he brought that I didn't mind too much. We have the Dazzling Gleam because Draining Kiss does actually make contact with your opponent, and if I were to Draining Kiss his Cofagrius, then I would not have Triage anymore, which is pretty much essential to trying to sweep with a Comfy, especially since I do have 0 speed. So I decided on Dazzling Gleam, Draining Kiss, Calm Mind, and Synthesis with the Lumberry. Instead of, I opted for Synthesis over Heal Bell because I only really needed to be at +1 or +2 at the most, depending on the stage of the game, and figured the Lumberry would give me that wiggle room I needed to avoid something like a Toxic or a Thunder Wave, etc., etc. So hopefully this set will be able to put in a good bit of work. I'm not going to be switching it into a whole lot of things, but this is going to be a Pokemon I try to double into, as well as just bring in after something's gone down and try to start either making big dents or going for game. Ooh, we got something popping up. Ooh, my video is ready. There you go, quit out of that. We'll be right back to that in a second. Second up, we have Second up, we have our Mega Gallade, a Dexter. This is SD. This is actually Ice Punch. Yeah, this I edited these sets a little bit with odds, so I will be going through and trying to remember what all that was. But I do have the SD Ice Punch Close Combat knockoff here, just because that hits everything on his team. I did have Zen Headbutt, as you saw, but I didn't think him bringing Virizion was as likely as him bringing some other Pokemon like Mandibuzz or something like maybe Pyroar I saw could be coming, just because with specs that thing does a ton of damage. But opted to go SD Ice Punch Close Combat Knockoff because nothing on his team wants to take 2 of any of these moves. Like, he doesn't have very reliable recovery. It's really only Mandibuzz and Cryogonal. Because stuff like, I think Gardevoir maybe as well, but and he does have Wish Vaporeon. Never mind, ignore what I just said. But basically, if I can get an SD up, if I can figure out what his movesets are, see what kind of moves he's packing on each Pokemon, and find whichever Pokemon I can SD up on, I can outspeed everything on his team, not named Pyroar, because we are pretty much max speed Jolly, and even though it says Adamant here, and be able to get off some big damage or take KOs. This and Comfy are my main sweepers for this particular match, although I definitely cannot forget my boy Rotom Mow. As I said, I did not think him bringing the Registeel was very likely, just because it didn't match up well against my team. So this is actually a Choice Scarf Rotom Mow instead of Leftovers, and we put HP Ice over Defog just so that we could be able to hit Zygarde, because Zygarde is a very safe switch in to the Rotom Mow typically, especially once you've revealed that you are Scarf. So I just decided that HP Ice would be the best play to have, and yeah, not too much more to say about this. I'm hoping that I'll be able to put in some offensive Rotom work. Again, I feel like I've been running this set a lot lately, but that's just because it does a lot of work. It's very nice. It's Leftovers, Leech Seed, Heavy Slam, Protect, and Fire Blast. The last move is interchangeable, but I brought Fire Blast this week to deal with the Registeel if he did actually end up bringing it. You know, I wanted to prep for it. I didn't think he'd bring it, but I didn't want to prep for it. But it also hits Cryogonal. I mean, even though Heavy Slam hits Cryogonal. And Virizion, I think, is the main one that it hits that doesn't get hit by Heavy Slam. As well as if his Kofag is defensive, then Fire Blast is going to be doing a lot more than Heavy Slam will as well. We have our Choice Banded Crocodile with Stealth Rock, Stone Edge, Knockoff, and Earthquake. My original plan was to lead Crocodile and throw up rocks and then switch out, kind of hoping to convince him that I was Scarf Crook, just to be able to start getting off a little bit more damage than he expected, and maybe forcing switches when he wouldn't necessarily have to switch normally. Intimidate, just because I didn't anticipate being able to Moxie boost up, especially since I'm running no speed. And then finally, we have our Arcanine here, which is AV Arcanine with Flash Fire, because he has a lot of Will-O-Wisp users on his team, as well as the possibility to bring Pyroar, which does a lot of damage to my team with a Fire Blast. We have Extreme Speed, Outrage, Wild Charge, and Flare Blitz. So this is really just to come in on the Gardevoir. With the Assault Vest, this thing gets like 10 hit KO'd by a Cryogonal, so I can always come in on that. And it allows me to take Scald from the Vaporeon, so if he switches into the Vaporeon and I had the opportunity to knock him out with a Wild Charge, I can do that. It takes a lot of things from Cofagrius. It takes pretty much anything that Cofagrius wants to go for, and it takes a lot of hits from Pyroar and Zebstrika as well. So just a nice defensive one overall. You'll notice that I have basically a lot of max spreads this week, and that's just because he only had one Pokemon that was faster than my Gallade, and that was Zebstrika, but I had to go pretty much max to outspeed everything, and I wanted to outspeed everything, so that's what I went with. With Comfy, I really needed the HP bulk just to be able to effectively sweep with Calm Mind, so especially also since Draining Kiss is my priority, would be my main form of taking things out that were faster than me. I didn't necessarily feel like speed was that relevant. We have Rotom is max just because with it outsped everything I needed it to with the Choice Scarf without needing, or actually I'm not sure. Odds did the EVs for the Choice Scarf Rotom, so I'm not sure if it's the same. Again, same thing with Celesteela, same thing with Arcanine, same thing with Crocodile. Anything that they would need to outspeed, they could with zero investment, and everything else I had switches to. So I didn't feel super obligated to run a bunch of speed this week, opting to play the chip game over anything else. So without further ado, we'll just jump right into the match. Okay, so as you can see, we are back, and Brendan has brought the Zygarde, the Mega Gardevoir, Vaporeon, Virizion, which I did not think he would bring, Cofagrius, and the the Cryogonal. I forgot what it was. I forgot what its name was. Anyway, seeing all of this, I opted to lead Gallade, just because if he leads Zygarde, I can throw off an Ice Punch. If he leads, basically anything that he led did not want to face off against a full health Gallade at the very beginning of the match, and I felt like that was just my best play overall. So we are going to hop right into it and get started. So here we go, facing off against my main man Brendan in the IBL. This is a matchup that's been coming for a long time. I know we were both pretty excited about this, and I am going to go ahead and start off with Zygarde. Actually, I need to close out of Pokemon Showdown real quick. Oh, I already did. That's awkward. I'll go ahead and close out of Safari then. Give me a little bit more breathing room. Anyway, sorry about that. We lead off with our Mega Gallade, and you are going to see that he is going to lead off with the Zygarde. So here, instead of going for the Ice Punch, I did not feel like he wanted to risk his Zygarde on the first turn. I figured he would switch out, so I decided to go for the knockoff, just get rid of something's item, and as you see, he does opt to go right into the Cofagrius. So if this Kofag has any item other than the Culver Berry, we're in a really good spot right here, because we will be able to knock it out after the initial knockoff. So as you're going to see, here comes the knockoff, and it reveals that he is in fact Culver Berry. So not ideal. Obviously I would have liked to be able to take this thing out rather early. We do get a big crit there, which is really nice, basically neutering the entire point of having the Culver Berry, which is just to reduce that damage. But because he was Culver Berry, we were not going to be able to knock him out here. So we're just going to go ahead, hard switch out right into my Arcanine because I am Flash Fire. I figure he probably wants to go for a Will-O-Wisp, seeing as that Crocodile is also a good switch into this. And as you can see, we do get a nice fire type boost. I have to go ahead and throw off a Flare Blitz just because due to my calcs, Flare Blitz can pretty much lead into an OHKO on anything. Lead into a 2-hit KO on any Pokemon he wants to go for. But as you see, he actually does switch out into the Zygarde and eats this Flare Blitz pretty well. I mean, it does about 25%, but obviously not enough. I don't want to go for the Outrage here because I will absolutely drop to 1,000 arrows, and I do have better switch-ins. No use risking it at the beginning. And I go right out here into the Rotom just to kind of gauge the damage on this. Since it is Choice Scarf, I don't anticipate it having to take a lot of hits, and I figured this Mon in particular could afford to not have that much health. And due to that damage, he is absolutely Choice Banded, so that is obviously not ideal. And he is going to make a good scout here and go hard out into his Cryogonal, as I'm going to fire off the HP Ice. I really wanted to Volt Switch, but early in the game, I didn't want to make any crazy predictions just because I wasn't sure how he was going to play. So, rather play predictable than get Bop turn 1 and lose very important Pokemon. I decided to switch right back out into my Arcanine here because, as I said, the Assault Vest is really nice, and he actually goes for the knockoff. I did not know Cryogonal got knockoff. It doesn't do any big damage, but it does get rid of my Assault Vest, which means I cannot come in on a lot of the Pokemon that I had initially wanted to. Here I debated on going for the Outrage, but it only does 33% to Vaporeon, and I figured he'd rather go into that instead of keep losing health on the Zygarde, which was accurate because here we are. So I do not have the Flash Fire boost this time, so it is only going to do barely any damage whatsoever, and he reveals Leftovers, so I cannot take out with the Wild Charge this turn. I thought about just going forward anyway, but I can't take a Scald without my Assault Vest, so the risk wasn't worth it. Had I had my Assault Vest still, I definitely would have gone for the Wild Charge there, but unfortunately, that is not how it goes. I double out into Comfy because I figure I can start setting up on this, and he goes into Zygarde. So I think, okay, this is perfect. I do my calcs. I live a banded 1,000 arrows on 20% health minimum. I can go for the Dazzling Gleam here and knock this thing out. And if it doesn't knock it out, I can go for the Draining Kiss and always Synthesis back up later. And he gets the critical hit and knocks out my Comfy. This really, really sucks because not a whole lot on his team could do much about Comfy at all. Anything that could take it out with a physical move dropped to either a Draining Kiss or a Dazzling Gleam. So that really, really sucked. But it does give me a free switch in into Gallade. As this time, instead of the knockoff, I just opt to go right for the Ice Punch as he switches into Cryogonal. Which is fine because I will definitely still outspeed this thing, and I can just throw off a close combat here and knock it out. Now this Zygarde is not safe from my Ice type moves. He can always go into Vaporeon, but lessening the amount of things he can switch out to is pretty much the name of the game here, as Gallade is now pretty much my main win con, seeing as how my Comfy got crit and died. So here he's going to go out into Cofagrius, and not wanting to catch a Will-O-Wisp, I decided to switch out. I figured he would predict that. I go here into Rotom for whatever reason, just because I didn't want to damage Arcanine any more than I had already, I think. And he is just going to go up and lay up a layer of Toxic Spikes. So I debated on going for the SD there with Gallade, but if he gets the burn off on Gallade, that's not good at all. But actually, oops, I didn't want y'all to see that yet. Okay, so Toxic Spikes. These Toxic Spikes are really, really bad because the main thing that he can do to damage me, the only thing I'm worried about on this Gallade, like getting burned is whatever, I can always SD up, but Hex. The attack Hex will pretty much always knock out my Gallade, so I have to be dangerous about that, and letting him get up Toxic Spikes when I have no removal is really bad, because now he will be able to Hex anything that's going to be able to come in, and that was a good play on his part. If y'all would just give me 1 second, I'm getting a phone call. Okay, I am back. Sorry about that, y'all. Anyway, for whatever reason, I don't think this was the best switch here, going into the Rotom, letting him set up the Toxic Spikes, but it does do what I intended for it to do, which is force the switch, and nothing on his team at this point wants to take a Leaf Storm. Virizion can take it and only take about 33%, but everything else takes a huge chunk, and I was so happy to see this Gardevoir come in, and I missed the Leaf Storm, so that is really, really unfortunate. I decided to stay in and just Leaf Storm again, but we would have been in a much better position had we been able to just get that Leaf Storm damage off, because as you're going to see here, we do connect on this one, and it's going to do a lot of damage. I mean, it's looking to be about 60% on this Gardevoir. So it wouldn't have dropped to 2, but we would not have had to sack our Rotom here. We could have switched into any number of our other counters to this Pokemon, but obviously we could not do that because, well, Rotom missed the Leaf Storm. And I needed that damage off on Gardevoir. Now I can go right here into Gallade. I am poisoned now, which sucks, but that was coming eventually. Might as well just get it over with, as we were just able to Ice Punch and knock this thing out. So that's another Pokemon gone. That makes me feel a little bit better, but it does give him an opportunity to go straight into Cofagrius again. So we're going to bounce right out into the Arcanine, because he is probably going to do the Hex, and we will get poisoned, but we are still pretty bulky, and now that the Gardevoir is gone, the Arcanine doesn't really serve as much of a purpose. I'm confident I'm able to take out the Virizion with my Gallade, so I don't mind letting Arcanine take some damage here. As you see, he is going to get a lot of damage off and knock me out with the poison, so that's really unfortunate, but we had to sack something, so it seemed like that was pretty much the only option we had. Now we can go straight into our Crocodile here, get the Intimidate off, which I guess is not super important, but this is going to let us go for a knockoff. Actually, no, I'm going to switch out here because he has the Virizion in the back. I didn't want to give it the Justified boost, and I figured there's no way he stays in. So this is a very free switch in into Celesteela, and I am correct as he is going to withdraw the Cofagrius and go right into his Virizion. So this puts us in a pretty nice position. We do have the Fire Blast to hit this thing very hard, as he is just going to withdraw. I actually stopped to go for the Heavy Slam because I do figure he is switching out, and here you can see he's going into the Vaporeon, a nice little scout for the fire type move, and that's going to do no types of damage. So he is going to get the leftover, basically recover that back up with leftovers. But here I can just fire off a Leech Seed and start whittling down this Vaporeon. If it wants to wish, that's fine. Whittling it down means that it won't be able to wish later on in the game, or if it does, it just has to wish for itself. So we do connect our Leech Seed, which is nice, and we are going to start chipping away here at the Vaporeon. So here I thought about double Leech Seeding. I really wanted to double Leech Seed, but I figured that just going for the Heavy Slam would be nice in case he does try to switch into something that's on a little bit lower health, predicting me to protect, which he actually switches right out into his Cofagrius. And as you're going to see, this Heavy Slam is not going to do barely any damage at all. He is pretty defensive. I mean, it does a good bit, but Fire Blast would have done more. And yeah, he's just going to get that wish back up, and now Cofagrius is sitting all the way at full once more. So that is obviously not the ideal scenario we're looking for. We try to go for the Leech Seed here, and we miss, which really sucks because that little bit of chip on the Cofagrius would have been nice, and it would have meant that I could have protected this next turn to get a little bit more chip instead of having to go for the Leech Seed again, which we do connect this time. But had we gotten the Leech Seed the first time, we could protect and block this first Hex, giving us just that much more, a little bit of chip on the Cofagrius, and not having to take that ridiculous amount of damage that we just did. So we get our real leftovers, we get our Leech Seed, we're going to take a little bit of burn. This part of the game might go by a little bit slow just because there's so many effects and stuff happening. But here, I'm just going to protect against the Leech Seed, or against the Hex, just because he has no reason not to go for it. He could try to predict and go for a Toxic Spike, but everything I have is already toxic or poisoned, so there's not really any use in doing that. Best option is just to sit here and keep spamming Hex until he can't anymore. So we are going to get a little bit of a health back, and it's looking like with Leech Seed and Protect, we can live 2 more Hexes, which is really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and fire off a Fire Blast just to get the damage train rolling a little bit, and it does a pretty good jump, and he's going to Hex me in return and get another critical hit and leave me on 3 health. So now I'm going to have to double Protect in order to live 1 Hex, which is really shitty because that's the second crit we've gotten in a row, or that's the second time we got a crit in this game that is really hampered my Pokemon, and it stopped me from taking out one of his Pokemon, because he would have been forced to switch there, and I would have still been at a very nice range of health if he was trying to preserve it, or he'd have been forced to sack it. So very unfortunate. Here, I wanted to go for the Leech Seed. I really did, but I clicked Protect. That was just one of those things where forgot that you can't cancel your move. I clicked it very quickly, and then I was like, oh wait, I really should have leech seeded there, because had I leech seeded, I could have caught this Vaporeon on the switch in and gotten my health up a little bit more, which is really nice. But as it stands right now, he will be able to take me out with a Scald very easily from the range that I'm at. So I don't necessarily know if I can afford to go for the leech seed. I think I ended up do anyway. Yeah, I do anyway because I figure he's probably just going to go for the wish. And I go for the leech seed. Just, you know, I really need to start getting this thing back up health. And we miss another leech seed. So we have yet to hit a leech seed when we really, really need to. Like, all the leech seeds we hit so far are on the second try. That's just really, really not good, because we would have had 2 turns of leech seed recovery instead of 1 turn of leech seed recovery. Or at least 8. So we get 0 turns because he's just going to switch out and go right into the Cofagrius again to receive the wish. So we are going to leech seed here, which is good. We don't have to waste any more turns trying to leech seed this thing next turn. But he is just going to receive a fat wish, get all the way back up to full, and we are not going to be able to recover enough health to live a Hex after all of this is said and done. So the crit on the Celesteela really, really sucks, because I definitely think I could have won the stall game between the Celesteela and the Cofagrius without the crit. But that's just the game we play. Here I decided to preserve the Celesteela for whatever reason, and I go right out into the Crocodile. I don't think that I'll be taking a lot of damage from whatever he wants to go for, and it will threaten this Cofagrius out and kind of stop this loop we have, as he just decides to double out anyway into the Zygarde. So here I know I can live 1,000 arrows, and I see that Earthquake is a pretty solid roll to knock it out. If I can get rid of the Zygarde, that's really, really huge for me, as far as keeping the game going goes. He's going 1,000 arrows here. It's going to do a pretty good bit. I'm going to be in yellow health after this. Pretty much living 2 more poison turns. And we are going to Earthquake. And as you're going to see, this is going to do a ton of damage, bringing him down to literally 1 HP. So that was a really shitty roll, because now we're essentially just forced to sack off the Crocodile here. It's not worth going into anything else and trying to sack or whatever. And he is going to knock me out. So that roll really, really sucked. If we had gotten that roll, we'd have been in a much better position. But now we pretty much are forced into our Gallade, because it will outspeed the Zygarde, and it still can win this game. This is a very winnable game still. I just have to get my SD up with Gallade in order to win. Celesteela isn't taking any more hits. I can use it for sack fodder, which is nice. It's always a nice option to have. But because I haven't gotten enough chip off on some of the things like the Virizion, I need to set up an SD here. And because I found out that he was choice banded, I figured that his best play would be to switch out here into something like the Vaporeon or the Cofagrius, and just whittle my Gallade down to the point where Banded Extreme Speed could sweep, because Banded Extreme Speed could knock out this, and it could knock out Celesteela. So in my mind, has no reason to stay in here. He's probably going to switch. That's the way I think about it. So I decide that I'm going to set up a Swords Dance on this turn. So we go out into Dexter, we hit the Swords Dance, as you'll see, and he stays in. And that is going to knock me out. That 1,000 arrows is definitely going to obliterate my Gallade. He goes right for it. Did not switch. No fear. It's going to knock me out. I live on 2%, but because of the Toxic Spikes, it's going to knock me out, and we are going to pretty much just lose 4-0 to Brendan, because my Celesteela can't take in 1,000 arrows this week. It's my last Pokemon. And yeah, I'm a little upset about this one, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. We missed a lot of important leech seeds that would have been... Okay, basically what happened was Comfy, a mon that really, really helped out a lot, got crit, and we lost it. We could have probably gone for a Draining Kiss and gotten a little bit more damage off on the Zygarde, but it, you know, using the thought process, he still would have knocked us out with the 1,000 arrows, because he got the crit. So losing Comfy was really, really bad, because that thing could have put in a lot of work later on in the game, and I could have set up to +2 easily on the Cofagrius, I think, or on the... Pretty much could have set up to +2 on anything that he wanted to go into. I guess except for the Gardevoir, which I did find out later was Calm Mind. But losing Comfy really, really sucked, because we lived that 100% of the time. And Dazzling Gleam was a roll in our favor to knock him out, and even if we didn't knock him out, we could always just go for the Draining Kiss next turn and pick him off with the priority, and then Synthesis back up later on things like the Vaporeon or the Cryogonal. I mean, Cryogonal was dead, so things like the Vaporeon, possibly the Cofagrius. So that was really, really unfortunate. Losing the Celesteela, essentially losing the Celesteela to that Hex crit, really, really sucked because I definitely could have outstalled the Cofagrius and stayed at a high enough health to where the Zygarde could not have taken me out. That Celesteela set, had it not gotten crit, could have taken on the rest of his Pokemon very, very easily. Virizion would have had to SD to knock it out, and in that turn that it would take to SD, we could have, I think, done enough damage with the Fire Blast to at least make it safe to switch into something else. There's a lot of variables that went into the Celesteela going down. Like, obviously I can't predict everything that went on in the game, but I can tell you this. I don't know if I could have for sure won it, but it made it a lot harder having Celesteela get crit. And then even after Celesteela getting crit, missing all of those very, very crucial Leech Seeds, missing out on all of that recovery that could have brought me possibly back into the range of living another Hex, all of that was really unfortunate. Losing Rotom to the Gardevoir was also unfortunate because had we hit the Leaf Storm, I would have had the chip that I needed to feel comfortable switching into something else, such as the Arcanine, because we could have taken it out with an extreme speed at that point. So even though I didn't have the Assault Vest anymore, I still could have lived any hit that Arcanine wanted to go, or that Gardevoir wanted to go for. So I could have just hard switched from Rotom into the Arcanine and knocked out the Gardevoir with the extreme speed, or at least scared it out for later on in the match, and I would have had my Rotom, which would have helped a lot versus the Zygarde. And especially once the Cryogonal was down, nothing on his team wanted to stay in for a Leaf Storm. I mean, the Virizion still even takes 33% from a Leaf Storm. I mean, maximum, you know, anywhere between 28 and 33, I think it was. But so it can only do that, you know, 2 to 3 times. There's only so many times that it can switch into my... Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. There's only so many times that it could switch into the Rotom. So losing the Rotom because we missed that Leaf Storm really, really sucked, but I had to get the damage off on the Gardevoir, or else it might start setting up Calm Minds or things like that. So, well played game to Brendan. I don't want to sound like he didn't play well. He did. He played a great game. He brought really, really nice prep. Some of the prep that I didn't even get to see, like he had Adrenaline Orb Virizion, which was really nice considering I do have dual Intimidators. The knockoff on Cryogonal was really nice. I really liked his Cofag set. It put in a lot of work. He played a good game. He brought really good prep, but I think that this game was definitely winnable from my perspective had I not had to battle uphill the whole way. A lot of the times it felt like he was on the back foot and not me. It felt like I was in the driver's seat for at least a good portion of the early game. Even after the Comfy crit, I still kind of maintained in the driver's seat, applying pressure with Gallade and things like that. But, God, just couldn't get lucky this week, which is really, really unfortunate. Ideally in the future, if we ever get to play again, it'll be a much cleaner game. I hate when you play a friend and it comes down to hacks like this, because that really, really sucks. But what can you do? We lose 4-0. I don't know what else to say about the game. Hope y'all enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. Make sure to leave in the comments down below how you're feeling. Next week we play my good friend Eric, which I'm very excited about, even though I have 0 switch-ins to like 10 Pokemon on his team. And then after that, we will be playing our final game of the IBL versus Flame Horizon. So y'all be easy. I appreciate y'all coming by, stopping, saying hey, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.